Yes.
He's got much more practice on the beard.
He's got much more practice than owning a sofa.
True.
He has much more practice like sitting in front of a mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, self-reflection is one of my regular experiences.
I see myself in others, especially when we're on a Zoom call.
Welcome back, everybody.
Hi.
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 How was that?
For me, what would have worked a little bit better is that if we could have done first person, then reflect for a minute on that first one, and then switch to the second person sharing and reflect on the second person, rather than first person share, second person share, then trying to reflect both simultaneously.
Cool. Thanks for that. Next time I can try that way and we'll see how that goes. Does anyone have a burning share based on what they shared or experienced? Maybe someone who hasn't talked as much in this group before? And also not exclusive to that, just want to give space for that. Mateo, I see you're unmuted. Oh no, now you're muted. Okay, are we ready to move forward? All right, wow, cool. Everyone got their fill. Also, just as a reminder, today, for those of you who can stay after, it'll be the opportunity to record testimonials from this course if you feel really excited about that. So even using right now as information for what you might want to share in that space if you feel called. Okay. Oh, I did that before I shared my screen. Share screen. Oh, I'm really excited to get into all of this. All right, so today we are talking about step 4 collaboration, which today we're going to cover trauma, polyvagal theory, navigating counteroffers, giving and receiving no's. And also we're going to cover nonviolent communication. And throughout our time today, I'm just going to see what we have time-wise in relation to exercises that we'll be doing. Awesome, thank you, Jed. Yeah, based on the time that I feel like we have. So, cool. And just as another reminder, here are the agreements again, just so you see them as a visual. And another reminder today to continue to feel into yourself and your sensations. Make sure you're listening to yourself and do what you need as you need. Because this whole course is about consent, and that starts with consent with the self. All right. And can you see my screen? Because I kind of have things up on the screen. Okay, interesting. Okay, I just said this. Yeah, just said that. And just as another opportunity for review, just taking a moment to look at this. This is where we're coming from. This was the first 3 classes. Did we lose Triada again? Okay. And then I'm gonna go to here. This is what we did last week, and this is what we're doing right now. Cool. Okay. So, trauma, polyvagal theory. So who got a chance to look into any of the resources that I offered around trauma and polyvagal theory? Cool. Okay. Okay. We'll go over it more today.
Somehow I missed there was like a link to the polyvagal stuff.
Did you get the prep email, Jed?
I think I did, but I
Okay.
might have missed the link or something.
Well, they're all there, and we'll talk about it today, and then you can go back
Cool.
and look at it.
Awesome.
And we'll cover it a little bit more in the next class too. So who would like to read this definition of trauma? What is trauma? Maggie.
Trauma is the response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, causes feelings of helplessness, diminishes their sense of self and their ability to feel the full range of emotions and experiences.
Cool. So just letting that definition land for a moment. And I even invite you to close your eyes and feel into your body as you have now heard this definition and seeing how that feels. And actually, I want to invite you to write in the chat how hearing this lands for you, anything that comes up, a word, an experience potentially, but not too detailed, just simple reflections in the chat if you feel called. For me, trauma is shutting down, scary. Withheld, cool. Lost, disconnected, disconnect. It's affirming to see this definition of trauma, to know that my experiences really were traumatic. Awesome. Indecision. Confused. Yeah, I think in creating this class, overwhelmed, I've really recognized more how much trauma, I knew this already and I'm offering this to you all, but how much trauma plays a role in our daily life and how much, how informative and helpful it is to be trauma aware and to understand how to be with trauma with ourselves and each other. It's clear how consistent trauma was in my life, yeah. And that trauma actually does create experience of not being able to function. So we're going to go over that now. Thank you for sharing. So what causes trauma? Who would like to read my list? Iko. This one over here.
Ostracization, rape, exclusion, bullying, discrimination, racism, forced to do things don't want to do, manipulation, gaslighting.
Cool. And just letting all those land for a moment. Just noticing how they feel in your body. If you're willing, taking a moment to even close your eyes and take a breath into that. And then Justin, will you read this right visual?
Common types of childhood trauma: abuse and neglect, family violence, community violence, school violence, life-threatening accidents and injuries, frightening or painful medical procedures, serious and untreated parental mental illness, loss of or separation from a parent or other loved ones, natural or man-made disasters, war or terrorist attack, forced displacement or refugee status, discrimination, extreme poverty.
Just taking a breath into that list and taking a moment to feel how that feels in your body to receive and hear what was named here. And just starting to recognize what you've experienced in these two lists. I think, again, for me, the more I am aware of these things, the more it, like Matteo, you shared, it validates my experience and helps me understand why I'm having the experiences that I have. I feel often, because there's not a lot of trauma awareness in mainstream culture, that it's brushed over or not acknowledged, which doesn't allow space for integration and healing. So that's why I'm bringing it up here and now, because this will absolutely show up in your relationships if you're deepening intimacy. So, yeah. Continuing to notice what you experienced, and just to relate this back to attachment theory. So all of the attachment styles that aren't secure are due to trauma. So are due to the trauma of not being able to depend on your caregiver as a child. So just to make that clear. Does anyone feel called to add anything at this moment? Okay. Yeah, and just allow yourself space in this moment to just feel what that's like, and feel if you've allowed yourself the acknowledgement of the trauma you've experienced. And if you felt acknowledged by others in the trauma that you've experienced. And I know this can be big and heavy, and my invitation here is to be with that as much as you can, so you can move forward from that place of more healing, as opposed to dismissing or ignoring, because that will come out in other ways if it's not included. Mm. I think for me, in relation to the fires, like, I was around someone who was not acknowledging. I was acknowledging myself how impactful that was for me, but I was around someone who did not value or acknowledge the pain and scariness of that. And it caused me to feel like I was even having feelings of like feeling like I was crazy. And I knew that didn't feel right to me, but I just want to offer that as an example, because when these things aren't acknowledged, I feel like that can create that experience, but that's not necessarily mean that it doesn't have an impact. So I want to offer that this absolutely has an impact and plays a role in life all the time. And the more I feel we can acknowledge it, the more we can work with it and invite other people to work with it with us. Okay. So, yeah, just holding yourself tenderly right now as we're moving through this. And what I'd love to do in this moment is actually watch this video together. So, does anyone need a moment before moving into watching a video? I just want to be mindful of where people might be at. Maybe thumbs up if you're ready to watch a video. Okay. Okay, great. So polyvagal theory is something that also relates to trauma responses, which is why I want to offer this to you all right now. So I'm going to play this video so we can all have a better understanding of what it looks like, and this person will explain it much better than I can. So.
Hello and welcome.
My name is Matthias Schweintek. I will introduce you in the next couple of minutes to the polyvagal theory developed by Dr. Stephen Porges. This is a picture of the triune autonomic nervous system. This system is structured as a hierarchy. It is a down-regulation system from the top to the bottom, based on cues of safety or danger. The top system is the one that we recruit first, the social engagement system. The social engagement system is responsible for controlling breath, heartbeat, facial expression, and voice. There are two main functions in this top-down system. One function is under conditions of stress, where we are not feeling safe. The other is under normal conditions, where we feel safe. Safety here is relative. What is safe for one can be lethal for another, and vice versa, based on individual experience.
So I just want to point that out and just highlight that safety for one person cannot be safety for another person. So just to make that clear.
The nervous system is using a feature called neuroception to detect danger or threats and adapt itself to the environment. If our neuroception signals a potential threat, the first reaction is to operate within the social engagement system and communicate. If communication doesn't bring the body back to a sense of safety, the next level, the sympathetic nervous system, is activated, the flight response. This is a signal to get out of the situation, leave, or run. If this isn't an option, the fight response takes over to defend or fight back.
So fight and flight are both trauma responses. So we'll go over that in a moment, but I just want to share that fight and flight. There's 4/5 trauma responses, and these are 2 of them that he's talking about in this moment.
The sympathetic nervous system recruits all features of physical movement of the torso and the limbs. If this does not create safety, or if the situation escalates or becomes deadly, the nervous system detects a life threat, and the parasympathetic nervous system is getting activated with features of immobilization. This is the freeze response, which is automatically taking over. This includes dissociation, fainting, and shock.
So that's another trauma response. It's freeze or disassociation. And I think it's really interesting because similar to how attachment theory has to do with life or death, the natural reaction is like, is this going to help me live or is this going to kill me? This is the same way that we can view the polyvagal theory and trauma responses, is that literally down here is when we feel life threatened and how our body naturally shuts down to take care of ourselves due to that supposed life threat.
In other stressful and dangerous situations between social engagement system and sympathetic arousal, protective and defensive behaviors are expressed, such as negotiation, appeasement, survival, oppression, denial, lying, manipulation, control, and passive aggressiveness. It is here important to note that all of these states are well-functioning survival mechanisms that operate involuntarily to bring us back into a state of safety or to keep us from feeling pain in the face of death.
So I just want to really highlight what he just said there. I think that's kind of the encompassing piece of this. And also appeasement is another form of a trauma response. So to appease or to fawn or to friend, and we'll go over that in a moment.
However, under normal conditions where we feel safe, our nervous system operates in a connecting way through features such as face-to-face engagement, eye contact, and a soothing or melodic voice. When we are safe and connected, we can engage in activities like work, sport, dancing, yoga, sex, or art. It is here where pleasure and physical connection are possible. This safe place of sympathetic arousal is called mobilization. When we have exhausted ourselves, the body can fall into a place of immobilization, where we experience rest and rejuvenation. Here is the place for deep relaxation and ecstatic stages through meditation, sexual engagement, and sleep. In this parasympathetic state, our system can rest in the most exquisite way.
Okay, so over here too is also where play exists. So when we feel safe, we have more ability and capacity to actually receive life in the present moment. We feel safe to be expressed. We feel safe that we're going to be included and respected, and this is the goal. And again, this is the reaction of our body's natural systems. So this is really interesting for me to learn because it actually clarified to me what was happening for me in specific engagements. For example, I sometimes have social anxiety due to these two experiences that I'm feeling in social situations. And this system was really helpful for me to understand so I can know, oh, this is actually happening for a reason. And these systems are functioning for a reason. And there's actually a way to get over here and to create the environments and structures for myself and with the people around me to create more of these states. And that can either be how a community supports you or how you self-regulate in experiences. So going back to step one, connection to self. What can I do to self-resource myself? If I'm noticing I'm getting into a triggered or trauma state, how can I self-regulate? How can I ask someone to help me co-regulate? So just want to share those aspects here.
Depending on the situation and environment, the nervous system can change and shift from one state to another, demonstrated by the arrows. This is where different types of therapy and healing methods can help to restore the body-mind connection and create health, rejuvenation, and healthy relationship to self and others.
So as you can see though, once you're here, you can't get to here. So once you're in a life-threatening situation, freeze, disassociation, faint, or shock, where the parasympathetic system is activated and you're in immobilization, you have to go back up into here at least to be able to move over to here to come back to here. Does that make sense? So all of these states can be interchangeable except for this one. If you're down here, you have to go back up here and even ideally probably back up here to come back down into here. And you can be over here and move back into danger. You can be over here and move into life-threatening and vice versa in all the situations. So, but when we're here, it's the social engagement is the activator, I would say, the possibility for trigger. And you either go towards the stress not safe or the normal function and safe. So not right now, but I would say even for homework and post-reflect after this course, I think it would be interesting for you all to notice when you've been in relationships or social engagements in general in community that have created this versus this and why. So just starting to feel into that. And even if you want to write that, if you feel called to write that in the chat right now, I feel open to that.
Last but not least, where my focus of attention goes, is on the safe side of the nervous system between social engagement system and mobilization. Here is a hybrid state where features of play, sensuality, and sexuality are accessible. This is the only part in the nervous system where these states are possible. This is a place where the wheel of consent from Betty Martin fits in, which is a way to create clear verbal agreements that establish a sense of safety and connection. In particular, it is about physical action and clear dynamics between giving and receiving. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe for more.
Cool.
Follow the next video.
So I sent that video out to email, so you have that there. And if we have time today, we'll play the 3-minute game. We're not going to have time in this course to fully cover the Wheel of Consent, but for next class, I will send you a video on what the Wheel of Consent is, and I invite you to watch that. Okay, cool. So that's polyvagal theory and how it works. And so just some other visuals here. Ventral vagal, I feel connected to the greater world. Sympathetic, I'm in danger, I need to run or fight back. Dorsal vagal, I can't cope, I'm collapsed and shut down. So just noticing times when you felt these and relating it to this very real process that happens in the body. And this is just another chart to help bring more information to that process. And I believe I sent this chart also in the email. And just to cover, actually, is there any, does anyone feel called to mention anything or share anything at this time in relation to what? Yes, Jed.
Well, since it's a ladder, I'm suppose somewhere in between the sympathetic response and the ventral vagal, there is some gray area like hypervigilance, or maybe not hypervigilance, but just vigilance, where it's not necessarily I'm in danger, but I'm watching.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure there can be like many levels to each of these levels too. And I think that's cool to bring up and think about. Anyone else?
Yeah, this is Hugo. One of the things that comes up for me is I've known for a while about the vagus nerve, of being able to like take a deep breath and making a sound, have it resonate in your chest as a way to activate the sympathetic nervous system to help calm oneself down and have a signal to the brain that you're actually in a safe space. And I'm curious if the vagus nerve is tied in, or how it's tied in with the ventral vagal and dorsal vagal, or if those are two different systems.
Yeah, I definitely cannot answer that question, but I invite you to look into that because I don't know enough about this, but I wanted to offer it as an option because I think it's really informative. But that's a really great question. Justin, can you answer that question?
I cannot, but I can answer that question is answered in one of the links that you gave in the prep email.
Awesome.
So one of the articles that you sent, because I read through them all, actually referenced that.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and actually activating the vagus nerve is related to how to tend to trauma responses, how to tend to this process. Do we feel comfortable moving forward? Okay, I'm gonna go. Matteo.
I just wanted to add that one of the things that I've been talking about with people has been the idea of self-regulation, not as a functional, healthy coping mechanism and healing mechanism, but as a form of masking. That there's regulation that we do for ourselves to bring ourselves into deeper harmony and balance and authenticity. And there's the regulation that we do for others out of a sense of obligation or fear. And that is essentially attempting to mask these kinds of responses of rage, anger, anxiety, frustration, hopelessness, numbness, shame. And so there are both healthy and unhealthy ways of regulating the nervous system that can either lead to like health and more connection and more authenticity, or more separation and over time, what happens is it leads to easier and easier triggers, where a person becomes more easily triggered into anxiety, more easily triggered into shame, into shutdown and hopelessness.
Yeah, that's so like what I feel really excited that you brought that up, because I'm actually hearing, and what you're sharing is, as every tool can be used as, it can either be used for health or used to create potentially more harm. And so what I'm hearing in this is that even self-soothing or self-regulating, especially in relation to another, is actually a trauma response of appeasing potentially. And what I'm hearing and what you're sharing is how to make sure that authenticity is still happening, and we're not using like self-regulation or soothing or catering to trauma responses to come back into like a regulatory state as a way of not allowing those feelings to be felt, or not actually being authentic or helping that process move through. So that's really beautiful to offer here. And I invite us all to feel into that. And just as we are learning this, and as you might apply this to your life, just continue to tune into that question and ask yourself that, am I being authentic, or am I using this to actually ignore or try to move through something that actually needs to be felt? And another conversation could potentially be, how can we feel safe to feel those feelings? And I think, again, all with consent. So if the person we're with has space for us to get really angry, and that's what we need, great, do that. If you need to get really angry, you feel you're in a trauma response, you don't want to regulate and come back yet, you want to go into it, then if that person's not available to you, then choosing to go in another room or asking that person to leave so you can go through your experience. So that's my offer in relation to that. Yes, Jed.
Do we have time to get a more of a direct example of what that looks like? Because I think I understand the concept, but could we put it in a real life scenario? Maybe Mateo could do that, or you, because I'm curious to know a little more deeper.
Like how it would look to experience the full capacity of your feelings with someone else? Or
more so, what does it look like when it's the unhealthy version of trying to regulate our
yeah.
system in relation to
I
somebody?
see you, Justin. Uh-huh.
Yeah. I'll make this real quick. That the differences between suppression or process. That if a person is capable of holding space for our process, that's healthy. If a person is not capable and we have to suppress in order to stay in relationship with them, then that's unhealthy. As far as actual suppression versus process, that is not a healthy, unhealthy line. That is entirely contextual. And it's only when the only tool is suppression that things become chronically unhealthy. Suppression is also coping. And sometimes we have to cope in order to get to a place of safety, or get to a surrounding or a social situation where we can process safely and fully.
Beautiful.
And in that case, it's very healthy.
Does that make more sense, Jed?
Yeah, it gives a little more suppression. I understand that, the energy of that. I was still looking just for like an example, like a real life scenario.
Cool.
We don't have time for it. That's fine too.
No, I feel good to go into that. Thank you, Mateo. And what I just want to add to what you shared is that, again, if we are suppressing, and whomever we're with doesn't have space for our process, just to make sure that we are asking for them to be a part of our process and getting their consent, because no one owes us that. However, it's nice and supportive to be with people who want to engage in that with us, and ideally, again, we're engaging in that in really self-responsible ways. Justin, did you have an example specifically to share?
Well, my basic example was how I have my own life experience of moving from, as was described, the suppression to the process, and using self-regulation to just suppress and hold back the whatever emotion may be. Like the most valuable lesson that Jed may be looking at that I have is bullying was a great example. Is, you know, when you get bullied, just to suppress the feelings, because if you react to the bully, then it's just going to get worse. Whereas just as Serena says, if you can remove yourself from the scenario, and the word I like to use is reframe, changing your perspective to reframe your point of view, to move into more of a process. So I just recognize that I have, you know, direct experience of spending a lot of time in the suppression, and then learning how to understand how to move out of that into a more of an actual process of the emotions, allowing them to come to the surface and be present with them.
Thank you. And I think I can give an even more specific example. So Jed, thank you both for sharing that. That was really informational. This is so funny. I get so raw on here. I'm like, I'm only using that current life experience. But what I will say is, in even having this conversation right now, in the last relationship I was with, I didn't feel safe to share my emotions. And I was afraid because I felt like the person, if I did, and granted, I'm pretty responsible in sharing my emotional experience. Like, I have a lot of tools, but even with that, this person was not really available to hear my experience. And therefore, a lot of things got backlogged, and resentment was happening because I didn't feel safe to share anything with him, honestly. And so that was me suppressing myself and coping in a way that ultimately was detrimental to me, and maybe serving to him, but in essence, we're both just, that created a dynamic where we're both not being authentic, because I'm like pretending to be okay when I'm not, and he's like not really wanting to receive my whatever it is, and then he's pretending like everything's okay when it's not. Does that make sense? So what I could have done, and what I tried to do, and that was like, hey, can I share this with you just because I want to be clear, and I'm going to do my best to be self-responsible when I share, and you don't need to do anything really. I just need to be heard if you're willing, so I can feel more connected to you. And this is actually perfect because I essentially just did MVC right now, which we're going to go over soon, which is basically observations, feelings, needs, requests. So my observation is that I'm suppressing myself. It doesn't feel good to me. I don't feel like I can connect with this person. My feeling is like fear and pain. And my need is to be connected and to feel safe to be authentic. And so my request is to invite him into that with me in a way that maybe is also comfortable for him. Does that make sense, Jen? Is that more clear?
Absolutely. Yeah. Everybody's share felt really comprehensive for me to kind of get the embodiment and bring up my own memories of what I get is like accommodation and what Matteo said was to stay in relationship. So that becomes like the major thing in the suppression aspect of it, is like, and for whatever reason, I was thinking about a time when I was really scared. So I didn't share my real feelings because I was actually physically threatened. And so I just tried to accommodate and suppress my real feelings that was going on to stay in whatever relationship I felt was going to be safe for me in the moment.
Yeah, and essentially that is a form of appeasing and a form of codependency. So I just want to clarify here that what codependency I'm even going to share is a trauma response, because it's like we don't feel safe to share how we really feel, so we appease to stay connected to a person. And interdependency is a space where we feel safe to share what we need, and to say yes and to say no, and to know that two things: ideally to know that connection is still possible within that, or to have enough safety with self to understand that everyone's going to take care of themselves in whatever way that they need, and it might look like that connection no longer exists. But my goal is to create enough tools and awareness for people to stay connected as much as possible, because I believe humans just want to be connected to themselves and each other. and that there are these ways that we can do that and still get our needs met and still be honoring our own choice fully and other people's choice fully. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay, can we move on? Yay, good stuff. Thank you for asking that. Okay, so just want to cover here more specifically, what are the trauma responses? Liana, do you want to read what I wrote over here? Are you open to that?
Fight, flight, freeze, appease, fawn, and friend.
Mm-hmm. So those are the 4/5 types. Oh, where am I going? I want to go back. And as you can see from this chart, it distinguishes them from which system is working, which we learned in the polyvagal theory. So the autonomic nervous system includes fight and flight, and the parasympathetic nervous system, which is actually things that we can't control even more, is freeze, flop, or fawn, or friend. So just want to cover friend really quick. So that's trauma, bonding, attach, Stockholm syndrome, social engagement, prolonged, or infant trauma. So that's basically, again, the codependency pattern of, oh, if I can't get if I don't feel safe to ask for what I need, or something's happening to me and I don't feel like I want that, or I'm like using that tactic to friend to get out of that, space, to get out of that experience of trauma. So for example, this is like for if someone is being raped, them trying to befriend their rapist or cater to whatever their rapist's values are to try and get out of the situation. That's an extreme example. Also with the fight and flight, oftentimes when it's a trauma response, it doesn't make sense. So especially with fight, if someone all of a sudden has like a really intense emotion over something, most likely that's a trauma response, just to be clear. Are there any more questions on this specific visual over here? Okay. And then over here, it just breaks down more what are the cognitive, emotional, behavioral, and physical, what does it look like to be in a trauma response? So would anyone like to read these? And if, okay, Iko.
Cognitive, difficulty thinking clearly, disorientation, confusion, difficulty problem solving and making decisions, memory issues, distortion, misinterpretation of situations and comments. Emotional, fear or terror, perceived danger, anger, hostility, frustration, irritability, deep sadness, difficulty maintaining emotional balance.
Okay, and
Behavior.
then Justin, hold on. I think I'm gonna have another person. Thank you. Justin, will you read the next two?
Yes. Behavioral, risk-taking, failure to use PPE, refusal to follow orders, endangerment of others, increased use or misuse of drugs or alcohol, reduced ability to support peers, conflicts with others, withdrawal, isolation. Physical, rapid heart rate, palpitations, muscle tension, headaches, tremors, gastrointestinal issues, nausea, inability to relax, trouble sleeping, nightmares, flashbacks, high adrenaline.
Okay, just breathing into those lists, taking a moment to pause and close your eyes. It feels good, and just notice how that all lands. And as you're taking a moment to pause, just want to share that in relation to the framework of victim perpetrator, that both, and even savior, that all of those roles, and we'll cover this more in the next class, all of those roles are a trauma response. So understanding that behavioral, sometimes when we are acting in ways that are harming other people, it's the root of that is trauma. All of it is trauma. So in this moment, I would love you to stay in your own space with your body and feel into a time when you either choose one, either you were in a trauma response or you experienced someone else in a trauma response. And notice how that felt for you and what that brought up for you. And really try to uncover what were the sensations in your body in that experience? What was the room like? What were the smells? What were you hearing? What was a taste? What were the visuals? Bring yourself back into that space if that feels comfortable for you, only if you're willing. And just get as much information as possible as you can. The purpose of this, again, with more information and more awareness, we have more ability to make empowered choices. And then, if it was yourself, notice what trauma response you were in. Were you in fight? Were you in flight, freeze, flop, fawn, which flop, fawn is collapse or play dead, or friend, or what trauma response the other person was in? Fight, flight, freeze, flop, fawn, or friend. And then notice if you felt supported in your experience when you were having it, or if you felt like you could support the other person in their experience. Or if you felt whatever else you felt in that experience. And allowing that to be here in this moment. Knowing that this isn't happening right now, you're just allowing yourself to re-experience this for a few minutes. Fully feeling if you didn't really get the support that you needed, what that felt like. Or if you couldn't give the other person the support that they needed, what that felt like. And then tuning into what would have helped you more. Just seeing what comes to you in this moment. What would have felt more supportive to you if you were in the experience? Or what could you have done to support the other person more? Or what could you think of that would have helped them more? And then when you're ready to be done with that process, coming back to the space by opening your eyes. And then writing in the chat. Where did the chat go for me? Oh, here it is. What trauma response, if it was you or someone else, what trauma response you or that person was in, and if you uncovered what could have been more supportive. I invite you to write that in the chat as we're moving through. Okay, so I'm just reading some more of the chat here. Wow, I didn't know that freeze was a parasympathetic response. Awesome. When a person isn't capable of self-regulating after an experience of danger and their social network fails to help them, they stay in the anxious danger state and it can turn into PTSD. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of a next level of trauma that I'm not going to cover fully here. And just want to validate that PTSD is very real and also comes from trauma. And that's an ongoing experience of trauma. So, which is very real. Okay. Phew. So, seems like people are in their experience. But from that little kind of visualization, meditation, memory, retrieval, just noting how that all felt, noting the sensations in your body, and noting what you needed for yourself or from another person or for another person to feel comfortable and safe. Yes, to what Mateo said, I feel this way from interactions from my community. Flight on the edge of disassociation. I felt supported, but was taken by surprise that I was going to be triggered. Last Friday, I was in a trauma response in a group phone conversation. It started in fight. I got angry and said things that were inelegant, and then went into flop, where I went into sadness. During the flop part, I did have a chosen family member hold me and lovingly caress my body. Awesome. That's great. Yeah, and what I'm hearing here too is how we can move, like the polyvagal theory showed us, how we can move from those different states of trauma responses as well. I know that sometimes I'll begin with fight or flight, and then I might go into freeze, and then I might go into appease, depending on if I can like get my needs met in the way that feel comfortable and safe to me, which might be like a need for sharing my authentic truth, or a need for acknowledgement or connection in some way. And again, just want to bring in making sure consent is happening to the best of our ability in all of these interactions. And I think an interesting question to keep in mind is, what is the appropriate capacity to have given that trauma is real and will be involved in all of our interactions? It's kind of what I'm posing just as a framework for my even work here with consent and consent is love. So what do we do if I or someone is in a trauma response? And these are ways to self-soothe and self-regulate. And I just want to bring back what Mateo mentioned and to keep that in mind. But here are some options. Invite them to breathe. And this is all helping to activate the vagus nerve to soothe. Help yourself or them feel into their body. So what I've been taught to do is, if someone's in a trauma response, like literally hold their hands so that they can feel the pressure of your hands on their body, or put pressure on the tops of their feet. So, and ideally when someone's in a trauma response, we try not to touch them too much, because that can be re-traumatizing, but also the touch can help ground. So it's like, how can you touch someone in the least possible way that will create the least amount of trigger, but still bring them back into their body? So just keeping that in mind. Help yourself or them point out colors or objects in the room, bringing them back into present time. Inviting someone to name 5 red objects in the room. Inviting someone to name 5 body parts on their body. So those are just examples. And maybe—
Can I offer something that, in regards to pointing things out?
Yeah.
One of the things that I've been taught for being able to be present back to the moment is to engage different senses of name 3, and varying the numbers of the things. Like, name 3 things that you can hear, name 4 things that you can see, name 3 things that you can go and touch,
Awesome.
name like 1 thing you can smell.
Great. Yeah.
Engage multiple senses in the present moment.
Perfect. Yes. Cool. And on a long-term, through a long-term understanding of how to relate to trauma, this is just a visual I got from this article down here that I actually highly recommend, and I'll send to all of you because it goes through all the stages of trauma. And I'm not going to cover this entirely in this moment, but I invite you, if you're interested, to look more into this, of what it means to be trauma informed and how to be with that over time. So this graph is realize, recognize, respond, and this says resist re-traumatization, but the way I would frame that is how to create space that allows more space for care, you know, to put that in a positive. And I don't know if it's possible to like resist re-traumatization. I think it's just going to happen in some form or another. So it's more what I'm passionate about is creating spaces that create more safety for care and connection. So that's the goal that I have to offer. And what that can also look like in relation to what you shared, Matteo, is how to feel empowered and in choice in creating those opportunities for strong emotions to be felt as well, and not just to try and maybe appease them. Okay? Cool. So we're going to move on now in relation to time to the second part of today. And I invite you just to take a moment as we close that out to close your eyes and just notice how that's all landed. Take a moment to feel into your body. And as you're doing that, I'm going to read the mantras for step 4, collaboration. And you can either say them back to me, but mute yourself, say them out loud, or say them in your mind, or just receive them. I respect people's no. I only offer a counter offer if it feels really good to me. I only offer counter offers after I've checked in and validated that the other person is open to receiving a counter offer. I offer authentic counter offers. I say yes when it's my truth and no when it's my truth. I only say yes to a counter offer if it feels really good to me. And letting that land. Noticing how that lands in your body, how that feels to hear. So, what is step 4, collaboration? I'm going to move forward. So basically, it's how to offer and give and receive counter offers, and also giving and receiving no's. So basically, it's treating our own and other people's needs as equal and trying to find the middle ground to the best of our ability in a fun and playful way, which also involves nonviolent communication. So the basic tier of, or the basic belief of nonviolent communication is that everyone's needs are important. So no needs are left behind. With that said, anyone can say no at any time, and that needs to be respected and honored. No one has to engage in anything ever, and doesn't even have to give a reason why. And just to be transparent, that's what I've been going through with a relationship I recently ended, is I've noticed like desire to want to understand, and they don't want to give it to me. And in essence, like I need to just respect that, because I don't get to ask them for that if they don't want to. So, want to clarify here that when we put others' needs before our own, that can be altruism. That is altruism, actually. That can be codependency. That can be anxious attachment. That can be disorganized attachment. When we put our own needs above other people only, that can be selfishness, seen as that. That can be avoidant attachment, and that can be independent. So, and like what I might call the American dream. And when we can include our needs and others' needs in some kind of equal way, that's what I see as interdependent, secure, and collaborative and community oriented. And what I would even call symbiotic or a permaculture way of being in relationship. Because that can look very different for each person. And again, so long as there's an agreement and both people and all people involved feel good, it can look, it doesn't necessarily even, it could not even look balanced, but it's balanced, it's equity versus equanimity. So it's equitable in the sense that all people's needs are being met to the best of everyone's ability. Does that make sense? So much engagement. So what collaboration offers is being curious and also being honest. Okay, so now we're going to jump into a little bit of nonviolent communication. So who would like to read this little blurb about what is nonviolent communication? Justin.
Marshall Rosenberg, October 6, 1934 to February 7th, 2015, was an American psychologist, mediator, author, and teacher. Starting in the early 1960s, he developed nonviolent communication, a process for supporting partnership and resolving conflict within people, in relationships, and in society.
Cool. So that's where that came from. And what is nonviolent communication? So basically, this is the outline or the basic outline from nonviolent communication. And as you may notice, it's pretty much what we've been doing with the tracking meditation. So it's tuning into observations, feelings, needs, and or desire, which is my little addition there, or request, and then requests. So observation, what am I noticing in my body or in general that I can connect to my feelings, what is my feeling? Need and our desire, what is the need connected to that feeling? Desires, requests, how can I make a request that honors someone's choice? So we've been working with this the whole time. And here are some examples. So the framework can be in reaction to someone else's actions or originally stemming from your own desire. So I'm going to show you two examples of that. Here's the first one, stemming from own desire. Who wants to read? Nico, will you read this?
I'm noticing my tummy is rumbling and I'm having an empty sensation in my stomach.
Will you say the title too? So feeling.
Observations. I'm noticing, self-tracking. I'm noticing my tummy is rumbling and I'm having an empty sensation in my stomach. Feelings. I'm noticing feeling hungry and lonely. Need and or desire. I feel I need to eat and I desire to eat out with my partner. Request of partner. Danny, how would you feel about going out to lunch with me?
Does that make sense? Cool. So I'm gonna move through this a little bit fast and get through this information and then see if anyone has questions kind of after going through all of it. So here is example number 2. Maggie, do you want to read this one? So this is in reaction to another person's actions.
Observations. When you shut the door in my face while we were talking. Feelings. I noticed feeling really sad and afraid. Need and or desire. And it didn't meet my need and desire for connection, inclusion, and safety. Request. Next time, might you be willing to walk away and let me know you need a break and when you may be willing to come back instead.
Does that make sense? Cool. So those are very clear examples of those two specific ways. And then I want to uncover or discover or relay What's the difference between a need and a desire? So I'm just going to read this to you. A need is something you actually, something you actually cannot do without for whatever reason. So it's life or death or basic needs. And desire is something you can do without, but something you would really like and greatly enjoy experiencing and would enhance your life. Does that make sense? So sometimes this category could feel like this category, or even vice versa. So it's up, I'm going to leave it up to you to discern for yourself what is actually a need and what is actually a desire. But I think it's good to just have a distinction of those two for awareness. And this is just Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Basic needs: food, water, warmth, rest; safety needs, security; belongingness and love needs; esteem needs; self-actualization needs. And it could be argued that all of these are necessary. And I thought it was interesting just to distinguish between need and desire here, and have that be a part of your process and understanding when you're making requests. So here are the feelings, needs, and sensations lists. Who got a chance to look into these and kind of be with these for the last few weeks? Nice. Yeah, and starting to notice when you've been tuning into these, what are your go-to feelings? What are the sensations you feel the most? And what are the needs and values that you tend to connect to the most? And if anyone wants to share any of those in the chat right now, I would love to hear some of those. What sensations are your go-tos? What feelings are your go-tos? And what needs or values have been more present for you? And how these lists have helped me, if they've helped me to understand that there's so much out there that I could feel, or that I might be needing, or that I might be feeling in my body. So I'm really happy to send you all these lists. And if we feel good about just feeling into that and moving on, I'm happy to do that too. And I think I'm going to move on. And you have those, so you can always look back on them. Okay, so I was maybe going to have you all tight sensation. Yeah, awesome. Do you all feel like you want to practice that MVC outline, or can that be something I give to you to practice in your life or your buddies and kind of keep going? What do people want? Okay, I'm going to keep going. Cool. And I feel like I gave you some thorough examples there, so you have things to work off of. And feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions as you're trying that in your life. So moving forward, what is a counteroffer? So basically, who wants actually, Jed, will you read the bold definition of a counteroffer that I made there?
Basically, offering something different than was originally proposed.
Mm-hmm. So for example, if one person requested, how would it feel for me to touch your back? Person two, if they're not into that, could offer something different. So person two, I'm not into that, but I'm into going on a walk with you. Are you open to that? And then person one can answer to that, and you can either just keep counter offering back and forth to each other until you find the yes, or maybe it's just a no. So that can be a fun game. Or it can look like person two simply says, oh no, okay. So, or it can look like person two says, I'm not into that right now, period. And then person one can ask, are you open to a counter offer? And person two can either say, yes, I am, thanks for asking, or no, I'm not, actually. Does that make sense? And then person one, the person who originally made the request can then make another counter offer. Or maybe it's simply that person one makes a request, person two says, thank you, no, and then that's it. And ideally, person one respects the person two's no. So those are kind of the three possibilities there. And I kind of want to go into practicing that right now in partners. So I think what I'd love to do is actually the first round we're going to do is we're going to just simply, someone's going to make a request and we're going to say, I'm not into that, but I'm open to this, period. Are you open to that? And then the other person's going to say yes or no. And then that will be the exercise. And then you switch. Does that make sense? So person A, make a request. Person B, say no, but I'm open to Y. And person A say, cool, I'm open to that, or no, I'm not open to that, period. And then have that end, and then start with person B makes a request. Person A then responds, no, I'm not open to that, but I'm open to this. And then person B responds authentically, yes or no. Does that make sense? Any questions? Okay.
In
Yes, Jay.
relation to them just saying no,
Mhm.
with no counteroffer, is it in bad taste
Oh.
to ask, well, do you have a suggestion instead? Or you
I
just
think-
accept the no and it's like, okay.
I think for the sake of this exercise, let's just keep it at this. And in real life, yes, you can do that. So for the sake of this exercise, if someone says no, let's actually respond, thank you for your no, right now. Any more clarifying questions? Okay, I'm gonna break you out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. How many groups do I need? Triada, are you able to be in a group? I'm just gonna put her. I think, well, let's see. We'll create 4. I'm going to do.
Carrie says she has to jet.
Okay, cool, good to know. And all right. Have fun. I'm gonna give you like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Hi, Nico. Hello. How was that?
That was fun.
Cool. How is that for everyone? Do you feel more comfortable navigating counteroffers a little bit? Cool. So I invite you to actually practice this even more. And Jed, as you mentioned, this was just one framework, but you could even play, and just want to invite in this possibility of play, especially if you're in relationship with someone right now. Play with the counteroffers exercise, like to find the yes, to find like what feels really good for both of you. And again, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you don't want to do this and I don't want to do this, and now we're both angry and sad. It's like, oh, let's play the counteroffer game and see where we can find the yes. So that's my invitation there with that. And to keep going, oh, I keep doing this when I don't share my screen yet. Share screen. Share. Present. Okay. I want to cover how to give and receive no's. So quickly, before going into that, I would like to invite you into another quick meditation. So closing your eyes and just thinking of a time when you gave a no, when you said no to somebody, noticing everything that comes up in your experience of that, noticing how you felt, how that felt in your body, noticing how it felt from the other person and how they received it from you. Taking a moment to really give space to that experience. And then releasing that and just kind of shaking that off, but staying in the meditation. And now tuning into a time when you received a no from someone and how that felt for you. How did it feel for you to receive someone's no, and what did that bring up for you? And tuning into how it felt for them in your perception of them to say that to you. Noticing all that was present in that experience. And after you feel like you've gained some awareness of that, just coming back to the space by opening your eyes. And if you feel called to share in the chat what came up for you. I invite that. Okay. Iko, do you have something short to share?
Yes. One thing that comes up for me in hearing a no, there is a sense of relief. I come from a place of, if I can trust your no, then I feel I can really trust your yes.
Mm-hmm. Who else has that experience? Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for sharing. Yeah, it's really important. Did you want to add something quickly, Matteo?
Yeah, I think when no's have been difficult for me to receive, it's been because I was expressing a need for connection and perceived a rejection of that need, not the offer for how to meet that need.
Mm-hmm.
There's a cognitive distortion there that I've been learning to untangle, that like a person isn't saying no to my needs, they're saying no to like what I'm offering as a strategy.
Yeah. Yeah, and just to reframe that even more, when someone's saying no to you, they're saying yes to themselves. So like it's actually, what can be really amazing is to reframe that in the view of yes. So understanding like, oh, the yes just is over here right now. It's not in this experience, in this moment. And also, when someone says no to you, it's also an opportunity for you to say yes more fully to yourself. Because if whatever request you're making of that person isn't able to be met by that person, so this is also practicing unattachment, which is really, really conducive to just having healthy relationships in general. Understanding how to create spaces for yourself where you can get your needs more met. Like, for example, just again, I keep using this experience because it's really present in my space right now. But at the end of the day, this person who I recently separated with wasn't able to meet my needs. So it's like I was what's the word? I was suppressing my emotional experience for the sake of this person, which was causing me like emotional, physical, and mental pain. So then it's my job to understand, if this is my experience with this person and I can't even express my needs to them, or my needs are an issue for them, is this really somebody that I want to be around, or someone who's supportive to my life? Not to say that when people can't meet our needs that they aren't supportive to our life. Ideally, we give everyone choice and ourselves choice. However, it is interesting to think about, what are our core values? Again, going back to class 1, and who in our life is in alignment with that, and therefore maybe more available and able to be with the support that we need and that we seek. So just want to include that here. And also within that, how do we also create a space of safety, comfortability, and even celebration for no's to exist, and to understand that receiving and giving a no is actually not only saying yes to ourselves, but also an attempt to engage in authentic connection and nothing less. So again, it's breaking that pattern of codependency. It's breaking that pattern of all the attachment styles that aren't secure. It's coming into the courageousness of fully owning our truth and supporting others in that. And with that, how do we do that in a way that cultivates the most connection, that prioritizes choice and connection, but not one or the other? Does that make sense? And if one, potentially choice. So in giving and receiving no's, how can we embrace gratitude, celebration, and respect in that? So my offer here is that when someone gives us a no, at the end of the day, even though it's nice to have an explanation or a reason, ultimately it's their choice and we don't have a choice. So ideally, we don't push and we don't pressure. We simply RGC. Respect, express gratitude, thank you for your no, and celebrate. Because how often have we been celebrated for saying our no's in life? How often have we been respected? Were we even conditioned as children to allow no to happen, or to have gratitude for saying no in our younger years? Most of us probably not. So in this moment, I want to go here quickly. Cool. So how can we say no? I'm going to read my list, and I kind of just spoke to what I just wrote down here. So ways to say no. No, nope, no thank you, thanks for asking, and no, not right now, but maybe another time. And Liana, are you willing to read this list?
Sure. The ways of saying no list?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Nah, no, nope, no way, sorry, not now, certainly not, by no means, I shall not likely, no thanks, I think not, unfortunately not, I'm slammed, not possible, not this time, not for me, thanks, it's not my thing, I think I'll pass, not today, thanks, I wish I could, but I'm taking some time, maybe another time, I'm not interested. If only I could, if only it worked, I'll need to bow out. I'm afraid I can't. I have something else. I don't think I want to. Thanks, but no thanks.
Cool. And just feeling into those and noticing how those land. And I feel called to just give space for how difficult it can be to receive no, and just giving space for that experience. And if it feels good, to hold some space for yourself, and how tender it is, and how courageous it is to ask for anything ever, and to receive a no around that, how that is also tender. And how do we hold ourselves in that tenderness and still respect people and their no and their choice? So taking a moment to feel into that and breathe into that. And then I want to play a little game. So if you feel ready and capable to play the game, coming back to the space with your eyes. And what I want to do is, I think I want to go in 3 rounds, and I want everyone to share an expression of no, and then we're all going to celebrate you. We're all going to like root for you, and we're going to do that. So I think I'm going to write the list in the chat of who's going to go when, just because that seems like the way. So we're going to go Mateo, Jed, Iko, Liana, Maggie, Nico, and Serena. And let's actually do 2 rounds first, and we're going to celebrate you. So after each person says no, we're going to be like, yeah, yay, good job, or whatever else. And then the 3rd round, we're going to all say thank you for your no to everyone. Does that make sense? Okay, so everyone should be off mute if you're going to participate, and you don't have to. Ready, set, go. Would it make more sense if I asked something and you said no to that? Or, yeah? Okay.
Probably.
I don't see the list in the chat. You said you wrote it in the chat?
Oh, I didn't send it. Mateo, can I pull your teeth out?
No.
Yay!
Right on. Woo!
Yay.
Yeah.
Yay.
Good job.
Jed, can I steal your hat?
No.
Yay!
All right.
Eco, can I take all your money?
No.
Yeah!
All right.
Liana, can I have all of your ducks?
No.
Yeah!
Yay.
Maggie, can I, what do I want to say to you? Can I have all your instruments?
Hell no.
Yeah!
Yay.
Nico, can you fly me out and pay for all my expenses to see you? You're
Honestly, I
my-
might do that, but
Yeah.
but for the purposes of the exercise, no, I cannot afford that right now, but maybe in the future. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yay.
Did I miss Justin? Justin.
Well, what a surprise.
What are you talking about? That doesn't make any sense. Justin, can I move into your room and kick you out?
No.
Yay!
Yay.
And then who wants to ask me a question? Justin.
Serena, will you move to Hawaii?
Yes? No. No way.
Yay.
Yay.
Yay. Okay, for sake of time right now, I think we're going to keep going, but I'm happy everyone got the experience to say no and be celebrated. And actually, in this moment on 3, I would just love to practice thank you for your no. So on 3, saying that. 1, 2, 3.
Thank
Thank
you
you
for your no.
For your no.
Mhm. Yay, that's fun. And yeah, so how can you invite that more into your life? And that's something you can even bring into your relationships too, if you want to get really nerdy about it, is to help encourage no's for both of you to actually have a celebration practice for your no, for yourself and with each other. Okay, so yeah. The connection sandwich. So this is a way to honor connection while saying no. And this is something I came up with just to give space that people just want to have connection most of the time, and that it's really courageous to ask for what you need. And it's similar to the compliment sandwich. So what the connection sandwich looks like is acknowledgement plus the no plus an opportunity for another connection, if that is real for you. So what that would look like is, example 1, thank you so much for your interest in wanting to engage with me. 2, I'm not available for that right now. 3, why don't you try me in an hour and I'll see where I'm at. Does that make sense? And you can apply this to as many responses as you want. And sometimes your truth is that you just need to say no. And then ideally that person honors your no. So maybe just 1 and 2 are present, but in the least, as much as you can acknowledge someone for the desire to connect with you, the more, honestly, how I'm going to name this, the more love you're creating in the world. And you don't have to do this at any point. You don't have to do anything. But if you're interested in cultivating more connection and creating more empowerment and love in the world, how much effort does it take to simply acknowledge someone's desire? So that's what I have to offer to you all. So when someone's desiring something of you, because sometimes that gets their need met in that moment, that need for connection, because any request anyone's making is connected to a need for connection. So if you can just simply acknowledge that need, sometimes that in itself meets their need for connection. So who would like to ask me a question, and then I can do this connection sandwich to them?
I will.
Okay, Eco.
Serena, would you be willing to let me to move into your place and live there rent-free?
Ego, I'm so I feel really I just want to acknowledge your desire to want to be in the same space as me. Wow. And potentially to want to get to know me better in that way. And in this moment, I'm not available to have anyone move in with me, nor can I afford to house someone for free. But if you wanted to come visit me for a week or two, I would love to get to know you a little bit more through that way. What's that sound like for you?
Thank you. That was nice.
Cool. What's our time? One more? Anyone else want to ask me something? Mateo.
Yeah, Serena, I would love to borrow your car and drive up and down the West Coast for about 3 months. Would you be willing to lend me your car?
Mateo, thank you so much for asking for what you need. And I really value that you feel comfortable enough to make that kind of request of me. I definitely need my car and don't feel comfortable lending it to you for that long. However, if you wanted to go on a trip with me where I'm driving and you're with me in that experience, I'm interested in talking about that with you. Okay, y'all. I hope that was all informative, and we are at 12 in this moment. So I'm going to move into the song for those of you who want to sing, and I invite you to just feel into how all of today felt for you, for those of you who need to leave in this moment, and just take a moment to pause and notice how this has all landed. And I invite you to continue to bring this into your life with yourself and your relations. And also, today's day for testimonials, if anyone would like to stay after and do one of those. And I didn't write all of this out, I'm noticing. How do I get down to these? Okay. But yeah, if anyone wants to give like a one-word reflection right now on how they're feeling, I would love that. Can just
conflicted.
Mm-hmm.
Rushed.
Cool. Anyone else?
Heavy.
Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm hearing a plethora of experiences and just inviting you all to really hold yourself in these and give yourself space for whatever you're feeling.
Yeah, thick.
Mm-hmm. And inviting you all to reflect in the Facebook group or the WhatsApp group and with your buddies, or to take advantage of an add-on coaching call with me. Okay, is everyone going to stay on for the song right now? Okay, so it's time. So anyone who wants to leave, I invite that. But if you want to stay for the song, I invite that too. So this is a call and response song. So basically how it goes is I sing it and you sing it back to me. So this is a preview of what it's going to sound like. I will respect my voice. And then you sing back to me. I will respect my voice. I will love my voice. I will love my voice. I will honor my voice. I will honor my voice. Does that make sense? Okay, are we ready? I will respect my voice.
I will respect my voice.
I will love my voice.
I will love my voice.
I will honor my voice.
I will
honor my voice.
I will honor my choice.
I will honor
my choice.
I will love my choice.
I will love
my choice.
I will respect my choice.
I will respect
my choice.
I will respect my needs.
I will
I will respect my needs.
I will love my needs.
I will
I will love my needs.
needs.
I will honor my needs.
I will
I will honor my
my needs.
Because I love and honor myself.
Because I love and honor myself.
Because I love and honor myself.
because
I love and honor myself.
And then there's actually a second verse to this. We're going to keep going. I will respect your voice.
I will respect
your voice.
I will love your voice.
I will love
I
your
will love your voice.
I will honor your voice.
I will
honor your voice.
I will honor your choice.
I
I will honor your
I will love
choice.
your choice.
I
I will love your choice.
I will respect your choice.
I will
respect
your choice.
I will respect your needs.
I will respect your needs.
I will love your needs.
I will love your needs.
I will honor your needs.
I
will honor your needs.
Because I love and honor you.
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 Yay.
So that song I created with my friend Eve, Eden, and I created that song together. Okay, y'all. Have a really good rest of your day if you gotta go. And if you're into doing a testimonial right now, I'm super excited about it.
Yeah, I gotta take off, but I will send you a testimonial later.
Okay, thank you. Nice to see you.
Good to see you.
I'm going to this point. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.
Same. I'll do a testimonial later. I love that
Okay.
song. And beautiful
you.
class.
Thank
you
you.
so much.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Hey, friends.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm wondering how to best do this. Actually, I'm gonna stop recording